What's happening, brother?
Oh my man, just uh just excited to be here. Um Had a really cool day and excited to share this episode with everyone. I'm pumped about it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I was telling you earlier, today our episode on death popped up on my Spotify and I was able to listen to that. And I don't listen to all of our episodes that we record, but it is cool sometimes to listen to those. And yeah, kind of got me pumped up for the day. And yeah, it was cool to reflect and I really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, dude, it's pretty fun to listen to them after the fact because it's like when you're in it, and it's like just sharing a lot, not nothing I've written down or rehearsed or anything like that. It's just coming from my heart and coming from my mind, and so it's kind of cool sometimes to go back and re-listen and be like, oh, that's pretty sweet. I like how I said that, or I like how you said that, or whatever it is. And so, yeah. Um, in regards to this episode, so one thing that I was thinking about was, how many epic books that I've read. And, we've spoken about, the books that you've read as well and how they've changed your life. And I just think there's so many amazing authors, so many amazing people out there that have written amazing books that I've learned so much from. And so I thought it'd be super cool to like highlight these books. All right. So do an episode on a book, um, and just pretty much like touch on the main concepts of the book, and then me and you can kind of break it down and give our perspectives on these topics and how they apply to our lives and how they possibly apply to the people listening their lives, right? And so I wanted to start off with a banger. And so I started off with Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've spoken about him quite a few times on this podcast. I really enjoy his work, and I'm really excited to share this with people. And so I've written down some things that I'll read off, like an introduction, so you guys can know who he is and what he's done. And then pretty much the format will be Dan and I both have some points, and so we'll kind of just go back and forth with the points and just kind of share a point each, and then share our perspective on it, and then go to the next one. And so, starting off, Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is a neuroscientist, chiropractor, and author who became fascinated with the connection between the mind and body after he was struck by a car during a triathlon in 1986, shattering six vertebrae. Told by many doctors that he needed surgery and he might never walk again, he refused surgery and instead committed to rebuilding his spine through thought alone. He recovered fully in about 3 months. That experience sent him on a decades long investigation into how the brain, the body, and human potential are connected. Drawing from neuroscience, quantum physics, and epigenetics, he teaches that it's possible to literally rewire your brain and change your biology through meditation, intention, and elevated emotions. His work sits at a fascinating intersection of science and mysticism. He has produced many research studies and documented cases to prove his theories that are hard to simply dismiss. His books include Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, You Are the Placebo, and Becoming Supernatural. And so, whether you're a skeptic or a true believer, his ideas will make you think differently about what the human mind is actually capable of. And so, another cool little thing I know about him is, once he healed himself from that injury, uh, they like at the hospital in his document, in his file, they put him down as like the definition was spontaneous healing, right? Because they couldn't explain what happened, they couldn't explain how he healed, and so they put it down as spontaneous healing. And so then he was like, I mean, how many other people out there have been put down as spontaneous healings, right? And so then he tried to find all these people, which is super cool, dude. And so found all these people, interviewed them, figured out what they did to heal themselves, and then now he's just got a whole team of scientists, and the work that they're doing is pretty incredible, dude. Um, and so I really enjoy his work, and his work has drastically affected my life, as I've mentioned on this podcast many times. And so, um, all right. So pretty much the core premise of the book is that yourself, like the self, right, the person that you think you are, is largely a habit. Most people wake up every day, think the same thoughts, feel the same emotions, and make the same choices, which reinforce the same neural pathways. The average person, by the time they're 35 years old, spends 95% of the day in the subconscious mind. And so this is the general premise of the book. What uh what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I for my, you know, watching his videos and reading his books, my favorite thing about Dispenza is that he really does like look into the science, which helps, which has helped me, because a lot of these things, a lot of these concepts, you can wrap your head around them to a certain extent. You can say like, oh, it kind of makes sense, but he really actually studies them scientifically, which I think is super cool. Um, and yeah, like you said, the whole idea of being in your subconscious, brain by the time you're 35 for like 90% of the day, um, it's just the same every single day. And if you can kind of break that, um, breaking the habit of being yourself, right? The title of the book, um, I think is very powerful. Like to just for him to kind of lay it out there. Um, but yeah, I really like him specifically for the fact that he is able to tie like actual science into the and show like how it works with healing yourself, but also changing your reality. Really.
Yeah, I mean that's it's one of the main things, that he'll continue to say or people say about him is, he's like bridging the gap between science and mysticism. And I think that's why so many people like relate to his work, right? Because for some people, they'll read, a Ram Dass book or they'll read like The Power of Now or something like that. And for some people, it's just too much for them. It's too much for their mind, right? To make a leap to that. Other people can digest it very easily.
Mm,
I think science has become the new religion for a lot of people, all right? Because ultimately, science isn't fact, right? It's not fact at all, right? Because it continues to change. And so it's not like hard facts, but it is, another way to create belief systems. It is another way to explore our physical world, right? And I think in a way, science has become like a new religion for a lot of people, where it's like unless science says it's so, then they don't believe it, right? And so I think that has been really helpful for a lot of people. Beyond that, I think it's just also helpful for the mind to hear about these things from a scientific perspective. I think it's just much easier for the mind to like believe or understand. Um, but based on like the main premise, um, it's pretty like interesting to observe yourself and realize how true that statement is, right? And realize how like we spend so much time in our subconscious mind. And pretty much most of the stuff that we do every day is not like a new conscious thought and that we're choosing. And for many of the things, I think it's amazing, dude. Like again, I love my subconscious mind. It's a really beautiful thing. I don't want to have to think about taking every breath. I don't want to have to think about brushing my teeth. I don't want to have to think about putting my clothes on. Like these are things that I'm really happy that my subconscious mind takes care of. But when I observe myself getting frustrated, when I observe myself indulging in thoughts that don't serve me and continue to take me down this like spiraling hole of what it, name it, dude, frustration, anger, sadness, whatever it is. It's not that those things are bad, but it's like, do I has this served me already? Have I learned the lesson? And if I have learned the lesson, then man, like, do I have to continue to experience this? And if I don't want to continue to experience this, then how do I do that? And I think bringing awareness to the fact that this is a program is step one, right? Obviously, step one's awareness, but then when you have the awareness, you can bring awareness to the fact that, hey, man, like I didn't want to raise my voice at Kat, right? Like I didn't want to do that. And by realizing that that's not what I wanted to do, and that I got kind of hijacked in a way from my programs and my emotions. And again, I'm just giving you an example, right? This is an example that I realized and was very real for me. Like when I would observe myself getting frustrated at Kat and raising my voice and stuff, like this is very real for me. I didn't want to do that. It was weird. But in the moments, like I couldn't stop myself. And then afterwards I would reflect back and be like, dude, like why did I say those things? Why did I do those things? Like that's not me. That's shitty. And in the past, I used to judge myself for doing those things. But then once I realized these were programs, these weren't me. And that's why I didn't feel like me. When I reflected back, that's exactly why I didn't feel like me, because earlier on in my life, it kind of did feel like me. But later on, it didn't anymore. And so it wasn't serving me anymore. And I kind of moved past that. But because it was so ingrained in my subconscious mind, it would continue to come up. It would continue to get triggered. Um, and so making that distinction for me was super helpful. Being like, hey, Ben, give yourself some grace, give yourself some slack, dude. Like you didn't want to do that. You didn't want to say that. Um, and then, as we move on through this book, we're going to start to talk about, what you do once you become aware of it and how you can start to reprogram. But that's kind of what comes up for me.
Nice. Yeah. One of the favorite things that Dispenza says for me is, like, I can't remember if it's what the exact stat he uses, but it's like 80 or 90% of the stuff that you remember is just pretty much made up. Like, so like when you have a negative experience, you remember it in a certain way, and you only remember the worst parts about it, and then you stew on it, and it becomes worse and worse the more you think about it, right?
Yes.
And so like a lot of those memories, and then you just spiral, right? And all of a sudden you feel shitty because you're thinking about this one moment, and you're making it so much worse in your brain than what actually happened, you know.
Yes.
um and I think and myself included, but I think so many people get stuck in that loop of remembering something negative and just literally making it worse in your brain. And then one of the things he talks about, which I'll bring up here in a second, is like your brain doesn't know the difference when you're replaying it in your head. It's like you're actually going through it.
Yes. Yeah,
um
that's a huge point. I'm excited to talk about that because that's huge.
so yeah, the science behind it. uh Joe Dispenza, he bridges neuroscience and quantum physics. So the brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. Neurons that fire together wire together. Every thought produces a chemical reaction, which is an emotion, and over time, your body becomes conditioned to expect those emotions. Your body starts running the show, not your conscious mind.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. Like again, these are pretty deep concepts. And so I'm going to do my best to simplify them and stuff. But so breaking down the whole idea, like the brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. This is what Dan was just talking about a second ago. So like this is really important for everyone to understand. Whether you are physically, like right now, experiencing something, or whether I'll just give you an example, like close your eyes and imagine yourself experiencing something and you feel the thoughts, you can smell it, like you completely takes over your body as if you were there. Your body doesn't know the difference. It just does not know the difference, right? And this is a really important point to make, because if you experience something very traumatic in your life and it's done now, right? Like it's in the past. It is no longer in reality, okay? Because it's in the past, so the past is no longer reality. But you continue to think about it, imagine it, feel into it, bring emotions into it, then you are continuing to relive that experience, and your body does not know the difference. So it thinks that you are experiencing that now. Hence, like PTSD, right? For example. And the cool thing about this is that if that is true, then not only can you re experience traumatic events, but you can re experience joyful events, or you can actually create an experience within your mind that you've never experienced before, which is super cool. And your body will, again, not know the difference. I'll give you an example. So there was a while there where I was pretty heavy into Dispenza's work. I mean, I still am heavy into his work, but I kind of go through ebbs and flows with the tools and the practices that I apply to my life. But there was one, there was a while there where I was every morning I was doing the morning meditation that he guides, and I was feeling into, imagining, creating the reality of me in my like on my piece of land that I wanted with a beautiful house with cat and my dog and all this kind of stuff, right? And I was there, right? I was there so much that I remember for a week straight, I cried every single morning, every time that I created that reality. And I didn't realize I cried until like I came out of it and I had tears running down my face, which was fucking nuts. Um, and the idea is that if our body doesn't know the difference between reality, or like what we call reality, or like our thoughts, pretty much our thoughts and our feelings, right? So you can create thoughts and feelings, or you can walk around in this physical world and experience reality. Either way, your body doesn't know the difference. If that's the case, then man, like, what are you thinking and feeling on a daily basis? What are the things that you are thinking and feeling that no longer serve you? And how often are you thinking and feeling them? Because understand that they're not just thoughts and feelings, they are the reality that you are creating in that moment, and your body is going through that reality. So it'll release the chemicals it thinks it needs to release in order to deal with that reality that you're creating. And if we feel into one of the laws of the universe, which is the law of attraction, and these are the thoughts and feelings and vibrations that we're most putting out into the universe, then what are we going to receive back? Right? These are the things I think about when when I think about what he just said in that paragraph.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I think, maybe some people might know like the Rhonda Byrne, the secret law of attraction, kind
Mm-hmm.
of mentioned. Um, but yeah, no, I read that book back in high school, and I thought it did some things for me. And I had an experience in my life where it's kind of funny, but I was really wanted to win the state championship, and we were a contender. And for a while there, I was reading the book, and anytime I went to the bathroom, took a shit, I would visualize myself scoring the game winning goal in the state championship. Um, and I did that over and over again. I probably did it at least a dozen times, probably, 10 to 20 times, and truly felt the feeling, and would close my eyes and I'll get super pumped. And yeah, lo and behold, I created that reality for myself. And it's funny because, I was able to do that and I proved it to myself that it's real, but it's difficult to, I wouldn't say difficult, but it requires a lot of discipline to kind of do that on a daily basis and actually, create the reality that you seek. But, I was able to prove that law. And, and yeah.
Dude, it's sick, man. And it's crazy too, because it's like, these are things that, maybe, you were told along the way, hey, this can be helpful. This is pretty cool. But like you said, it's like you do it, you receive the reality of it happening. And I'm not going to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. But like, I know like when that happened to me in the past, like there was still like a part, like parts of me that just didn't believe that that's what happened. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like there were parts of me that were like, I didn't do that. Like, me visualizing had nothing to do with that. It just kind of happened. It was luck and chance and all this bullshit, right? But what happens when it happens again and again and again and again? I mean, you can no longer ignore it, right? it no longer even makes sense to your mind to be like, hey, like that wasn't me. You're like, dude, it definitely was me. I definitely, contributed to making that happen. Um, and it's just such a cool thing to think about. It really is. Um, and I know that for a lot of the people, I speak to a lot of people, and they want certain things in their life, and a lot of them are frustrated that they haven't got it. And this is a perfect example of what we're talking about, which is just like, if you are in the reality, okay, this is really important, so listen up, guys. Like, if you are living the reality in your mind that you haven't got what you want, and that when you get what you want, things will be better, life will be better, you'll be happier, the law of attraction isn't working for you in that moment, guys, the way you think it is. You are creating a reality of lack. You are telling yourself that you haven't got everything that you need, right? And so, to give you like an understanding of what we're talking about, is it's about feeling into and creating the reality now, not in a distant future, like, hey, I haven't got this right now, but I'm gonna imagine that I have it in the future. It's like, no, like you need to feel it now, as if it's happening now, as if you have everything you want now. And then when you come out of that reality and maybe back to this reality with your eyes open and doing your thing, you live as if you have everything now, right? Because in a way you do. that's
Mm-hmm.
another that's another conversation altogether. But and that is how the law of attraction works. It works from the energy that you are putting out, not the words you say or the desires you may have, right? Um, in that paragraph that you just said, it talks about like how every thought produces a chemical, which is an emotion, and over time your body becomes conditioned to expect those emotions. And your body starts running the show, uh, not your conscious mind. And so it's like these programs that we have, these thoughts that we have that we continue to repeat to ourselves, the chemicals that they like release, we become pretty much like drug addicts to these chemicals. Well, our body does anyway. And so our body wants these chemicals because it's so used to getting them that it'll create thoughts and it'll create realities so it can get that chemical again, which is it's a pretty crazy thing to think about. You wonder how you end up in that fight again, or you wonder how you end up frustrated again. It's like, man, there's a lot of the time that's why.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, obviously, I think it's important to note, the visualization is not going to create everything, but I think it just puts you on that vibration,
Yes.
gets you to that vibration, and then you go about your day and then you act upon, that vibration and whatever comes at you. Um, so it's not like, obviously visualization is not going to bring you everything you want, but it's like, bringing that into your life along with your daily practices and along with your whatever else you're doing throughout the day just kind of puts you in that on that wavelength.
Yeah, then something we'll get into as we go through this episode, but the key player here is like, there's a few, but like the real key player here is an elevated emotion. The
Mm.
elevated emotion is what is doing the heavy lifting, right? Um, and we'll talk more about that. So
So
another say that again.
the meditation practice, we want to get into that.
Yeah. So Dispenza teaches a specific meditation process with roughly 4 stages, right? So like first stage is slowing down the brain waves. Second stage is breaking the habit of yourself by observing the thoughts and programs without reacting. Third part is creating the new self by mentally rehearsing your future thoughts, feelings, and actions. And the fourth part is living in the feeling of the future as if it were this moment. And so let's kind of break that down and go through each stage. Um, so, number one, slowing brain waves. So, he talks a lot about like the different brain waves that we can access as human beings, right? And the crazy thing is that for those of you that don't know, we weren't always able to access all of our brain waves. So, like, as a child, as an infant, you can only access like one brainwave. And then as you get a little bit older, then you can access two, and then three, and then four, right? And so you have like, delta, theta, beta, gamma, stuff like that. These are all the different brainwaves, right?
And these can be measured, yeah.
Correct. Of course. Yes. Of course. Yes. All these things can be measured. Again, this isn't mysticism stuff. This is scientific stuff, right? That we're talking about now. So these are all different brainwaves. And based on the brainwave you're in, you are able to receive certain information and not receive certain information, right? Certain things aren't even a reality to you based on what brainwave you're in. So this is super interesting. One of the things that he talks a lot about is, the reason that we are so heavily programmed between the ages of 0 to 6 or 0 to 7 is because of the brain waves that we are in, which are the lower two brain waves like delta and theta, right? And these brain waves are like sleep and pretty much like meditation, right? These are again like the much lower brain waves. So as we go to sleep every night, we're kind of like cycling down the brain waves, right? From like beta to theta to delta, right? And then we go to sleep. Now, in theta and delta, like we can really do some reprogramming, or we can really do some programming. So in order to be hypnotized, you have to be in like the theta brainwave, right? As a child between like 0 and 6, 0 and 7, you're predominantly in that brainwave, which is why they spend a lot of their time in the like imaginary worlds, and they have imaginary friends and different things like this, right? Which is also why that they're able to be programmed very, very easily, and they're very malleable. Their brain is very malleable, right? And so number one is slowing down the brain waves. The reason he wants us to slow down brain waves is that so that we can access the computer, right? And by computer, I mean the subconscious mind. We want to be able to access the subconscious mind, because if we can't access the subconscious mind where the programs are, then how are we supposed to reprogram the programs, right? So number one is slowing down the brain waves. Um, and Dan, if ever you want to say something during this, just shout out, do your thing.
No, yeah, you're
Um,
good. I guess, and obviously a very realistic way of doing that is, focusing on your breath and, the classic meditation cues that you hear a lot of times to access those brainwaves.
yeah, definitely. Um, and at the end of this, I'm going to give you I'm going to give you guys some tools and stuff that you can take away with this. But obviously, Dispenza has a lot of guided meditations as well that you guys can access. Like you can actually access this meditation. In particular, it's called the morning meditation from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he'll kind of guide you all the way through it. Um, Caveat: it may feel weird at first if you've never done his meditations. They are slightly different, but they're very, very good if you stick with them. So, number one, slowing brainwaves. Number two, breaking the habit of yourself or being yourself by observing the thoughts and the programs without reacting. So, this part of the meditation, what that looks like is you are going to observe it could just be one. I'll keep it simple, right? So, you slow down your brainwaves, and then you think about, imagine, feel into something that you notice that you do often that is a program, a thought, a feeling, an action that you do not want anymore, that doesn't feel like your real self. And you observe it. You observe the things that you would say in that moment. You observe the feelings you would feel in that moment. And you observe the actions that you would take in that moment when that program has a hold of you. Okay. Number three, creating the new self by mentally rehearsing your future thoughts, feeling, and actions. So with number two, you felt into the program that no longer serves you. Number three, now you're going to offer up the new path, right? What is the new thought that I want to have in that moment? What is the new feeling I want to have in that moment? And what is the new action I want to take in that moment? And now you're going to feel into that. You're going to create that reality. So you've done number two, which is hold up what you no longer desire. And then you're feeling into number three, which is your new reality, your new self, the new life that you are creating in that moment. And you're going to feel this as if it's happening now. And then number four in the meditation is living in the feeling of the future as if it were in this moment. That's pretty much what I just said at the end of number three. So you understand the thoughts, feelings, and actions that you want, and then you live them in that moment as best as you possibly can. Now, by doing this, I'll just tell you my experience. This is anecdotal. This is my experience. I did this for many years. I reprogrammed a lot. And what I found by doing this meditation again and again and again every day, every morning, and there's one at night, which has you reflect on your day. But I realized that I was preparing my mind, I was preparing my conscious mind for my subconscious actions and experiences. So that when I did that thing that I felt into in the morning that I no longer wanted to do, I was able to come to awareness in that moment. And I was able to choose a new path in that moment. Now, again, not every single time, but more and more, much more than I was before I started doing this. Think of it as if like you're priming your mind, your heart, yourself to be more aware about the things that you desire to reprogram, right? And you already have the blueprint of what you want to reprogram it with, because again, you've also felt into that. And so I can't praise this method enough, because ultimately that's what everyone wants. And maybe you don't even know that's what you want. If you are going through your day and 95% of your day is a subconscious reality, and you're not 100% content, happy, joyful, and peaceful within your life, then pretty much what you're asking for isn't, hey, how do I become more present? It's like, no, you're asking to reprogram. You're asking to do exactly what we're just talking about, right? And this is a great way to do it. And it's a beautiful place to start. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but draw, parallels between, physical exercise and obviously this what we're talking about is kind of like mental exercise, right? So like, if you're preparing to hike, do some crazy mountain, you're going to go to the gym and do stairmaster and prep yourself, and that's kind of what it seems like to me is in the morning you're prepping your mind for its challenges that you may face, kind of like when training your body to prep the challenges that it's going to face, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. You're kind of like warming up, dude. You know what I mean? You're warming up, you're like intentionally warming up. And it's so cool because like, and I think it's just so foreign for a lot of people, you know? I mean, and a lot of people don't like doing it, dude. How many people don't even like warming up for a soccer game, dude? Or like a lot of people don't even like warming up their bodies, man, let alone like warming up their internal bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's so powerful, dude. Like you can reprogram, you can accelerate your reprogramming so much more by doing this. Um, and so I invite people to look at this and do this and go down this road if this resonates with you, and stop just sitting on the sidelines and being like, why doesn't anything change? It's like, well, you have to change. You have to change in order for things to change. And there are some beautiful tools out there like this that can help you change faster, right? Um, so, but yeah, what's that next one, Dan?
Being versus doing. Many self-help teachers will tell you to do more. Dispenza says you need to be different first. You have to feel the emotions of your desired future now, not as a goal to chase, but as a present reality to embody. The body has to believe it's already happened. So yeah, I mean, I think we kind of pretty much touched on a lot of that.
Yeah. But this is the challenge, right? I'll touch on this part. Like this is for a lot of people like the challenging part is how do I create this reality if there's a part of me that still doesn't believe that I have this thing, right? How do I create that reality now? And all I can say to you is this isn't about faking it until you're making it and shit like that. That's not what this is. To help you understand what this is, in the quantum field, and if you don't know what the quantum field is, this episode's not long enough for me to tell you. Look it up, read into it, right? In the quantum field, all is there, all is present, all is possible. Everything you could possibly ever want, desire, it's all within the field, right? So from that perspective, you already have everything you want. You already have everything you could possibly ever need, want, desire. And so this isn't about pretending that you have something that you don't. This is about truly embodying abundance and realizing that lack does not exist. And by doing this, you can really create the reality he's talking about. You can really feel into having what you desire now instead of going into meditation and imagining what it would be like to have what you desire. That's a completely different thing. It's not what we're saying to do. You have to experience it now as if it's exactly what is happening now. And for me, what helped me do that was that reality, was the reality that, from this physical realm right now where I am sitting in front of this computer, I don't have what don't I have? I don't have a ring on my finger. All right. I don't know what to say. I don't have a ring on my finger, right? But again, in the quantum field, there's infinite rings, dude. Infinite rings, man. And so it's not about me being here being like, oh, like I don't have a ring. Let me imagine that I have a ring. It's like, no, like let me create the reality where I've always had the ring. It's always been there, dude. And how good does it feel to have this ring on and blah, 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 right? That's what we're talking about. I want to make that distinction because sometimes it's hard for people to understand that. Like, there is no gap between where you are and where you want to be. It is here and now. And that's what you have to be able to feel into and create the reality of.
Yeah, and that's the key, I think.
That's the key.
Mm.
That's the key. And again, like, don't think it's going to be easy. I mean, again, it may be easy for some people, but it is a commitment and it is something that you need to get out of your own way in order to create it. And that can take some commitment. And so, but I mean, what else are you going to do with your life?
Yeah. And give yourself some grace too,
Yeah, dude.
it's not going to
Yeah.
happen every time.
Yeah, dude. Next point. The role of elevated emotions. Gratitude, love, and joy aren't just nice feelings. They're high frequency signals that literally communicate to the quantum field that something has already manifested. Dude, I love this shit. Um, it is impossible for me to explain how powerful the frequency of gratitude and love are. I just can't explain it in words. And I I just want for everyone to be able to experience what I'm talking about. Um, Dispenza says something really cool about gratitude, and I'm going to remember it in a minute. But while I'm remembering it, Dan, what are your thoughts on this point?
Um, I mean, what came up for me as you were reading that was all the heart math stuff that we've gone through, which we need to do an episode on at some point. But yeah, just like you said, the emitting of the frequency of your brain waves, the electromagnetic frequency of your heart that it emits, and how that stuff is going out into the world and actually doing something. It can be measured. Um, Again, this is what I love about Dispenza is like he goes into the science behind it. It's like
Yes.
that is what's doing stuff. Like
Yes.
it is affecting the world around you. Your
Yes.
brain waves, your heart waves, that frequency is doing things. Which is a very powerful concept for me that I love to think about.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. And I get why it's difficult, for some people. It's because like we can't sense everything, right? Like we don't have the sense organs to be able to sense all of these things. Like we can't sense the quantum field. Like we can't see it, we can't smell it, we can't touch it. I mean, we do touch it, but we can't We can't actually feel that we touch it, right? Um, and so because of that, it's really easy for us to dismiss all of these things with our mind and just be like, that's not real. I can't see it, and blah, blah, blah. Right. But I mean, dude, just think about how many things you can't sense, dude. Like you can't see radio waves, you know what I mean? You can't sense those, or you can't sense any of this stuff. There's so much, man. Like,
Bluetooth is wild. I mean,
yeah, yeah, nuts,
how
dude.
is it going from there to there and then making a sound like that?
Yeah. We with our eyes, so our sense organ, our eyes, we see less than like 0.01% of like all light. Like that's insane, bro. So it's like we have to like realize that we're not all that. And most of reality we can't even sense. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we can't interact with it. And that's where this comes in. And what Dan said is just so cool, right? Like what we are, energy, frequency, vibration, we're constantly in communication with the quantum field. We're constantly in communication with all life forms around us. And to bring that into your everyday life changes things, dude. It changes things. And to know that you can communicate with the quantum field in ways that maybe you don't communicate with a person, but it's a different way and you can learn this communication and how to do that. And that'll bring things into your life. It's a really fucking cool thing. Um the the quote on gratitude, it came to me. So, and it's one of my favorite quotes, dude. So Dispenza says that gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And for me, what that means is that if there was one thing that you committed yourself to, just one, and then that would be the most powerful thing that you could do in your life that would affect change. It would be feeling in and becoming gratitude as much as you possibly could. And by doing that, you will receive all that you desire to receive
Mm-hmm.
because that frequency is so powerful. Why is it so powerful? I'll tell you why. So, based off what we're talking about, creating the reality as if it was already here, what is gratitude? Gratitude is exactly that. It is the state of being grateful for something that is already here, right? And so to be able to feel gratitude for everything and all things, you are in the quantum field communicating with it that I have everything I could possibly ever want. And the quantum field is like, yes, you do. Take it all. Right? That's why gratitude is so powerful, man. But again, not an easy thing to feel into about all things at first because we've been taught, well, I can only be grateful for what I have. And what we need to realize is you actually have everything. Maybe you just can't see it yet. Maybe you just can't taste it yet or touch it yet, but you have everything. And yeah, that gets me pumped.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, I think something that a lot of people can relate to is, uh, everyone's been around that person that just, that makes them feel comfortable, right? Or that they feel easy around, that easy to be around person.
Mhm.
And, and then everyone's kind of, I feel like also has had that experience where they've been in a situation where they're like, okay, this something is off here. Like, I don't feel comfortable. Maybe it's just someone you sat next to or someone you passed by or whatever. It could be a fleeting emotion, but I truly believe that comes from the frequency that they're kind of vibrating on, and that you're vibrating on too. I mean, it could be you that might be
Yes.
that you're not feeling 100%, or that everything's all good. It could be 100% you. But and same thing with dogs. When you're like, why can dogs smell fear, or why do dogs know when you're scared? It's like, well, I feel like at a certain level they can sense, and like you said, in ways that we can't perceive necessarily, but they can sense things, and we can sense things. We just don't necessarily give it the attention or the you know that it deserves, really.
It's such a good point, dude. That's such a good point because it's like we have the ability with a lot of things. Like I had the experience with my heart. I've shared that on this podcast already. I've shared it with you, but it's like we have these, we have abilities that we have not unlocked because we haven't given them the attention required in order to unlock them. And like some people, you can call them what you want, superpowers or whatever they are, but like we have abilities. And I mean, people have dedicated their whole lives to them, like in different religions, different belief systems. Um, and we acknowledge, like, I mean, a lot of people acknowledge like different people that have attained certain heights within themselves, right? And certain powers within themselves. But some of us are just like, oh, little old me, I couldn't do that. It's like, no, man, you can do that. You can do that. You can create things in your life just like anyone else can create things in your life. You have that power. Um, and like, let me just play this side as well. Let's say that you can't create shit in your life, right? Like, isn't it like, wouldn't you rather feel what we're talking about anyway, right? Like, let's say you couldn't create shit in your life anyway, but so what would you rather feel, grateful or ungrateful? Loving or not loving? Like, either way, like, this isn't like something that I feel like anyone needs to be sold on. It's just like, regardless of what this is going to create or not going to create, like, don't you want to feel that way anyway? Isn't that the option you're probably going to pick anyway, based off how it feels for you, right? Um, but yeah, I had to add that. Sounded fun.
I love it. Yeah.
Um, what you
Why
got?
change is hard?
Yeah.
The why change is hard, but it is possible. Joe Dispenza does not sugarcoat it. He reprogramming the subconscious requires getting past the analytical mind, which is why most attempts at change fail after a few weeks. He explains that real transformation happens at the border of sleep and theta brainwave states. Um, and I know, yeah, what he put there is reprogramming the subconscious requires getting past the analytical mind, but I think he does a fantastic job, better than anyone I've read or listened to, while trying to appeal to the analytical mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Through science and through studies and all that kind of stuff. So if you really are skeptical, I think he's probably the best person to read. If you're on that, if you're really a scientific mind, if you've gone to university, whatever that may be, and you have these thoughts ingrained, like, he's the perfect person to listen to read.
Agreed. Something I've said to many people is like, once you can get your mind out of the way, everything else is easy. And sometimes to get your mind out of the way, you need to give it certain information so it can shut the fuck up, you
Mm.
know? And the information that he has to give you is some of that information. It satisfies the mind and just be like, oh, wow, that sounds cool and right and correct. And so, all right, cool, man. Maybe I can take another step forward, right? Maybe I can commit a little bit more. Maybe I am really powerful. Maybe I can feel into gratitude, so on and so forth. And so, one way to get beyond the analytical mind would be to give it certain information. So now it doesn't have a problem believing that this is a possibility. Once the analytical mind understands that it's possible, then it's much, much easier. If the analytical mind is so skeptical that it doesn't even allow that reality to exist, then that's kind of what he's talking about. It's impossible to change. Impossible. And so, but notice the reality, right? Meaning that, how many people are so stuck in their ways that they won't even allow themselves the new information to be able to get beyond their analytical mind, right? And that goes back to what he was talking about. There are so many things at play. I'm not saying this is the only thing, but again, like your programs, those chemicals, in order for them to survive and keep getting what they want, new information is not good. New information could fuck up the whole thing. And so that identification to those thoughts, to those beliefs, can just create this fucking loop where you never leave it. You never indulge. Someone will tell you something and you're just like, whatever. And here's a good thing to kind of bring to your awareness. If you are someone that argues with other people, this is probably you, right? Like, I'm just being honest. Like, if you find yourself arguing with other people, then this is probably you. You are identified to certain ideas and beliefs, and your identification is not allowing new information to come into your life that could completely change everything for you in a beautiful way. And so I encourage you to be open and catch yourself when you're arguing and realize how crazy it is that you're deciding to argue right now because you don't know everything. I don't know everything. So who are we to argue about things like we know everything? Right? Let's have a discussion and be open to the new information that can come out of that. Because, dude, all it takes is one concept to just blow your fucking world wide open. You know?
Yeah, and as you're talking, I just, again, I think it's important, at least, it was for me in the beginning of this. It still is, definitely. But just giving yourself grace. Like, it's not going to be like, you do this once and your life's going to change. You're going to have a
Yes.
moment here and you're going to fall back into habits, and you're going to have a couple moments here and maybe fall back into habits again. But just trying to create more and more of those moments of where you're able to, create that new reality and feel into those feelings of joy and love and gratitude. And, just, as many of those moments as you can stack, just try to keep stacking those moments. But definitely giving yourself grace, I think is really important.
Agreed. Agreed. Committing to the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than wanting a fucking magic pill that changes everything today. But if there were a magic pill, gratitude would be it. So start swallowing that.
Good one.
Start swallowing that, dude. Um, all right. And so the last thing I wrote down here was pretty much like practical takeaways for the people listening. And so these are the practical takeaways. So start a daily meditation practice using his methods. Again, you can find them online, um, and just commit to it, right? Don't be like, oh, I'm going to do it today and see how it feels. No, commit to it, man, for a longer period of time and notice the change. Allow yourself the time to notice the change. Second thing I wrote down was journal your ideal future self in the present tense. So again, like the things that you desire, right? Firstly, check yourself and realize if you're attached to those things and start working towards that. But write down the things that you desire, right? So journal your ideal future self in the present tense as if it's happening right now, as if you have it right now. So journal it out like that. Third thing I wrote down was notice what emotional states you keep returning to. Those are your addictions. Notice that I didn't say notice what negative emotional states you keep returning to, because it's all emotional states. So, you could be addicted to, a very enjoyable emotional state, right? Um, you could be addicted to excessive dopamine release, right? And so just noticing what emotional states you keep returning to, thoughts that are perhaps linked to those emotional states, and just observe them and understand, bring them into your awareness that, hey, man, like these are my addictions, these are my programs, right? And then you can use those in the meditation that you do to help reprogram. And then the last thing I wrote down, which I just think is super important, is catch yourself living by memory, which is the past, versus living by vision, which is the future, right? Or imagination, which is the future. Just bring that into your awareness, right? Like when you are reliving the past, check yourself. Is this a past like I want to be reliving? Because as I'm reliving it, that's what's actually happening. My body is living that memory. And so is this something that is serving me right now? And same thing about the future. I think about the future, which again is not real, just like the past, but I will be experiencing it as if it is real. So just bringing more awareness and more importance to where our mind is going and the reality that's creating, knowing that it is reality when we make it so. That's what I got.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing else. I know it's probably a little late, but I know that you and Kat both went separately to a Dispenza retreat and had
Mm-hmm.
a pretty intense experience. And pretty phenomenal, each in a very different way. Um, but yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to touch on anything about that. I know it's probably,
I'd
like
love
I
to
said,
touch on that. Yeah, I'd love to touch on that. I mean, if if you want to hear the craziest experience I had at Dispenza, you should listen to the episode Heartful Conversations with Sierra Penna. Right, we already did that episode. It's already come out. You should listen to that episode. I share a really cool story from there. But just to give you an overview, yeah, Kat and I both went. We went separately, intentionally separately, to kind of do our own thing. And both of us had life changing experiences, man. Life changing experiences, not only within our own experience, but then the friends that we made, the things that we were able to bring back with us and apply to our lives and what they have done for us, those things that we brought into our lives, you know. Um, it's just such a beautiful experience that I encourage everyone to offer themselves at least once in this lifetime. Um, Again, this isn't about, oh, you need to go here, it's going to help you and heal you and all of this shit. That's not what this is about. This is about realizing that there are many people out there that are creating some awesome fucking spaces for you. They're creating them for you. They actually care about you. And you can go there for you and see. You get to know yourself better. You get to bring attention to parts of yourself that you never have. And this is all guided by someone else who really cares. And it's super cool to take advantage of these people that really care about us. And when I say take advantage of them, you know what I mean, not in a bad way, but
yeah,
like, but go there and enjoy the gifts that they have to share, and go there and share your gifts, dude. You may not think you have any, but I guarantee you do. And when you go to places like this, other people realize your gifts, and you're like, holy shit, I didn't even know I had those gifts. That's cool too. So but yeah, just an overview. We both had a great time. It's a beautiful, again, it's a beautiful experience. So much to learn for everyone, regardless of how much you know about the Dispenza or not. Um, and ultimately, just a great space for you as a person to learn more about yourself. And so, yeah, highly recommend.
awesome, brother. Well, yeah, as always, thank you for sharing everything with us, and love you, man.
Yeah, thank you, brother. It's a good one. Love you too. We'll talk soon.
All right.